Hello again with episode 94 of the Horror Guys.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And believe it or not, we got 4 more horror films for you.
What? We're going to talk about horror movies?
They just keep making them.
You didn't tell me we were going to talk about horror movies today.
Guess what?
We're going to talk about horror movies.
We are.
4 of them. What do we got?
Which ones?
Well, we got Moon of the Blood Beast, which was an indie film from 2019.
Yeah?
And we got Fantasy Island, that new reboot of it. Newish reboot.
Yeah.
It's not new anymore.
Going back in time, we've got The Boogeyman Will Get You from 1949, which is actually more of a comedy than a horror, but it's got Peter Lorre, Boris Karloff, and some other horror guys in it.
Kind of a Scooby-Doo kind of horror to it.
Yeah, more of a just plain tongue-in-cheek comedy horror on this one.
Yeah.
But it still counts. There's a lot of good comedy horror out there.
Uh-huh.
And the last one is Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter from 1974. Which sounds a lot cooler than it is.
Back in time, but not as far back in time. Yeah.
Where do we want to start?
Let's start with the oldest one. Let's talk about The Boogeyman Will Get You.
1942. Directed by Lou Landers. Written by Hal Fimberg and Robert Hunt. Stars Boris Karloff, Peter Lorre, and Maxie Rosenblum. Hour and 6 minutes. Did you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny.
I did too.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Definitely nothing like any of the other Karloff type movies, but yeah, he was just going for laughs on this one.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. It wasn't horror with comedic elements. It was a comedy with horror elements.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Definitely parodying the usual mad scientist kind of thing.
Very much so. Yeah.
Well, the credits roll with madcap wacky music, so you know right off the bat this is going to be a comedy. The sign in front of the historic tavern says it's for sale. Very cheap. Karloff comes in wanting an apple for Mr. Johnson, but all they have is a rotten banana. Will that do?
No, that will not do.
Actually, I think it did do. I think it was good enough.
It'll have to do.
Well, Amelia the maid and Professor Billings, who is Karloff, let some woman, Winnie Slade, in to look at the inn. "It's exactly what I've been looking for," she says as she falls through the rotten floor. She decides to buy the place, but the professor wants to leave his lab in the basement. What could go wrong?
Nothing at all.
So she's buying an inn which has a mad scientist in the basement. Okay.
Hilarity will ensue.
It does.
Yeah.
Billings has a rug salesman downstairs in his machine, and when he turns on his electric spark machines, the salesman is killed.
Oops.
Yeah. Billings doesn't seem particularly upset. It seems like this might be a regular occurrence. Well, Dr. Lawrence, Peter Lorre, comes for a visit. He holds the mortgage on the inn. And he's also a scientist who has invented a hair restoration formula that doesn't work.
But he's not just a scientist.
Well, how many hair restoration formulas have you invented that don't work? Most of them don't work.
Most of them don't. So, yeah.
Well, they sign over the deed, and she hands over a big pile of cash that apparently she just brought with her. And they finish the deal just as Bill, her ex-husband, walks in and tells her to stop. It's too late. Yeah, she is now the new owner of the inn.
Uh-huh.
Well, Mr. Brampton walks in, and he now wants a room at the inn. They lead him up to his room, and it's a torn-up disaster, but he agrees to pay $5 a day, which we looked it up. That was actually a really high rate for that time period. $5 for a hotel room.
For a day. Wow.
Well, at dinner that night, there's a scream, and everyone says, "Oh, that's okay, it's the ghost." Well, Winnie is just thrilled that she's bought a haunted house.
Oh, a bonus.
And I mean it, she's really happy. She's actually overjoyed that, oh, it's a haunted house.
Uh-huh.
And Bill goes to investigate. He finds the dead salesman in the basement. That's a great typo. The dead salmon in the basement, yes. He finds the dead salesman in the basement. They run to Lawrence, who also is a judge, the justice of the peace, mayor, coroner, and the sheriff. He's everything in this town. He puts on his badge, puts a gun in one pocket, and a kitten in the other.
Because you never know when you need a kitten.
They're always good. Lawrence calls out to Billings and goes down into the lab. Billings says he didn't kill the man laying at his feet. He admits he shouldn't have left him lying around, and with Lawrence's help, he can store them with the other 4. What?
And at what point they say, what? They're 4.
Yep, he's killed 5 men in his experiments. Billings thinks he's on the track to creating Superman, and if he hadn't had something in his pocket, it would have worked. Lawrence is convinced, and he wants to help with his great scientific discovery. Lawrence wants him to hide the body in a secret room, and all the dead men are door-to-door peddlers, and that's okay because they never have any friends.
They won't be missed.
They're probably all happier being dead than they were alive anyway, he comments. Then we're back to the others. Bill has trouble with a bed that collapses, and Amanda roams the halls thinking she's a chicken.
Yeah, there's a lot of silliness in Madcap and
Yeah.
slapstick. And,
Lawrence suggests using Bill for the next test. They can just bang him on the head, and they don't even need to use anesthetic. A powder puff salesman comes to the door, and the 2 men carry him down to the lab. They remember to search him this time. They keep coming across Mr. Brampton, who seems to be searching for something. Billings and Lawrence find another guest murdered. Bill and Winnie come to the conclusion that it's all a scam to get them to sell the inn back at a huge loss. The salesman knocks out everyone with chloroform that doesn't work on him. He thinks he's a mass murderer when they all fall down. So he's like immune to the chloroform stuff. But nobody else in the room is. Billings and Lawrence wake up and stash Bill and Winnie in the room with the corpses as some other man breaks into the lab. He's Silvio, an escaped prisoner that has a huge bomb in his bag.
Yeah, it just keeps building and building.
It
this
does. One thing
madcapness.
after another.
Yeah, Madcap.
The couple in the morgue wake up. It's fun in a way, being entombed, Winnie shouts.
She has a very positive attitude.
She'd feel right at home with the Addams family, wouldn't she?
She would. Yeah.
Billings and Lawrence knock out the powder puff salesman and finally get him in the machine while Silvio watches. They turn on the machine, hoping a Superman will come out and deal with Silvio. Then Brampton explains that Benedict Arnold once hid in their secret tunnels. This inn is priceless and historical. The police arrive and arrest Amelia and Ebenezer, the servants, for the murders. They killed all the people.
For some reason.
Well, the entire cast sneaks downstairs as the experiment concludes. They open up the machine, and this salesman is dead too. The bomber then announces his plans just as the dead rise and come into the room. None of the corpses is actually really dead, and the bomb is a dud also. Turns out, Billings has invented a way of putting people into suspended animation. They only look dead. And then the police just take everyone to the asylum. The end.
Happy ending.
Well, they were all, they all went to the happy farm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, this is 100% a send-up of other horror films, not a serious line in the whole thing. There's a lot of running around and physical slapstick comedy here. It's got funny lines and jokes and silly situations, but none of it is at all realistic or even logical. It's kind of like watching a live-action cartoon. Peter Lorre and Boris Karloff went on to do a total of 4 different other comedy films together, and they were both excellent here. Naturals who were not really known for their comic bits. Actually, they were the best part of the film, being evil, confused, and bewildered all at the same time. Don't watch it for horror, but it is pretty funny, and there are some surprises.
Yep, even with all we said.
Definitely liked it. Worth watching.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right. Then we move up a few years to Captain Kronos, the Vampire Hunter from 1974.
Pretty sure I saw this when it came out.
With a name like Captain
was a wee
Kronos,
lad.
I was expecting him to be a time traveler.
Or more of a superhero.
You definitely, yeah.
He was just a
superhero.
regular guy.
Yeah, not even very good at his job either. Directed and written by Brian Clemens. Stars Horst Janssen, who was apparently a fairly big star in Germany at the time. John Carson and Shane Bryant. Hour and 31 minutes. Link in the show notes if you want to pick up this classic film to watch.
It is a classic of sorts, yeah.
So what did you think? You said you saw it when it was new.
I liked it, yes.
Was it everything you'd hoped for and remembered?
I could barely remember it. I could only remember bits and pieces, and it drove me nuts for the longest time because I couldn't remember what was that movie where the like the steel killed the vampires, and it was, there's various little bits and pieces that I remembered, and
Everybody
finally
has
put it
those
together
films.
enough. Like, oh yes, Captain Kronos, somebody said. Like, yeah, okay.
Everybody's got those films that they remember one scene of and don't know what the thing is.
Yeah.
And the internet has helped a lot with that, but not always.
No, not always, but it did with this one, yeah.
So let us know. What do you think? Have you got a film that you sort of remember something of, but you don't know what it is?
You saw it a long, long time ago.
Yeah, let us know what the scene is or what the thing is you remember. We'd like to take a crack at it.
Yeah, we would.
Our challenge of the week.
Yeah.
What film do you not really remember? Okay, so this was... It tried real hard to be different.
And it was.
And it was.
Yeah, not
But
always
it
in a good way,
didn't try real hard to be good.
but overall I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I would call it a unique historical document.
Okay.
It's not fun.
That's fair. I thought it was thoroughly enjoyable.
Well, we start out with a girl sitting in the woods combing her hair, as girls do, and a vampire sneaks up behind her and hypnotizes her. The blood starts to splatter, and suddenly she looks really old afterwards. Credits roll.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Kronos rides into town with his faithful hunchback servant, Grost.
Yes,
Where
gross.
do I get a faithful hunchback servant? From the back lot at Hammer, I imagine.
Yeah.
Well, he cuts the local girl, Carla, free from the stocks, and she goes with him. And she's wanted for, I don't know, witchcraft or something. It doesn't matter because nobody ever brings it up again, even though he released her from the stocks.
Yep. You're my companion now.
She did something to be in there, but we never hear what. Well, then we shift to another girl named Isabella, who's walking through the woods with another vampire following not too far behind. As before, he has his way with her, and she wanders home, but she's gotten really old looking.
And here's where you start to get a sense, and they do bring this up later, that there's different kinds of vampires.
Yeah, they don't all just
one,
suck your blood till you're dead.
This one also sucks out their life force, their years.
Life force.
Leaves them alive and old.
Okay, well, Kronos and his group arrive at the house of Dr. Marcus. The girls did, in fact, all die. Grost and Kronos are experts on vampires.
Took them a while.
And he thinks one of them is the culprit. They drain life force, not just blood. Marcus thinks, yeah, it might be vampires. You could be right.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus meets Paul Durward and his elderly mother at the cemetery, and they don't like him very much since he couldn't save old Lord Durward from the plague 7 years ago. Later that evening, Kronos and Carla have some naked fun time in the barn, while Grost and Marcus play chess. Meanwhile, several more women are killed. Yeah, what were you doing while these girls got killed?
Nothing.
Nothing. A stranger in town hires the ruffian Caro and his gang. And they make this big deal out how tough and badass Caro is. And yeah, he dies in the very next scene, so who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, that don't pan out
Yeah.
at all. Marcus has a drink with Paul Durward and his sister Sarah. Marcus comments that Sarah looks remarkably young. On the way home,
Suspiciously young.
my goodness, your sister looks young. What? But he'd never seen her before. How does he even know how old she is?
Yeah, maybe she is.
Maybe
young.
she is just young, yeah. 12-year-olds are a real thing. On the way home, Marcus meets up with a vampire, but it doesn't kill him. Marcus sprouts fangs and attacks Kronos, but Kronos ties him up. Marcus killed the most recent girl out in the forest, and he begs them to kill him too. And they do, with a small steel cross.
Takes a while though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a graphic scene, and that was actually one of the scenes that I remember where they, try various. Well, he's still not dead. Well, he's supposed to work. Okay, try the stake. No, that didn't work. Yeah.
Got to do the experimenting.
Yeah.
Well, the villagers know that Kronos killed their doctor, and they want revenge. Kronos draws his sword and takes on all 9 of them. Grost forges a new sword made of steel for killing these local vampires.
And aren't most swords normally made of steel? I thought that was kind of odd. Like, oh, we're going to make you this steel sword. Like, what was your previous sword made of?
Aluminum.
Yeah.
Or its hammer, they would have called it aluminium.
Aluminium, yes.
No, I don't know. If not steel, what would it have been?
Well, that's the standard thing. I mean, iron, I guess, but not really.
Iron wouldn't last very long.
Yeah, it's not Iron Age. It's like, steel.
Yeah.
Steel was the thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Late 18, early 1900s.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, the vampire kills the rest of Isabella's family that night, and there are limbs and body parts everywhere. Kronos has a plan. He gets Carla to ask for shelter in the Durward home, and then they'll see what happens. She goes in, and they let her stay the night. As she sleeps, someone approaches, and it's Sarah, who was the prime suspect all along. Except it's not Sarah. It's Lady Durward, who is now young and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There is no Sarah. She admits that she's a Karnstein by birth.
Oh, there's that tie-in again.
Uh-huh. And she has ways of never growing old. Life begins again for me, and your father, she says. She intends to bring Lord Durward back from his sleep of 7 years. Yep, that was him roaming around in the forest in the Black Shroud. Well, she hypnotizes Sarah and Paul and tells them to remember nothing. Kronos, however, is watching from upstairs. He tricks Lady Durward into hypnotizing herself, and then he fences with Lord Durward.
Because that sword is shiny.
Yeah. Shiny swords.
Yeah. Zaps that reflective,
They said it was steel. They didn't say stainless steel.
that hypnotic vision right back at her.
Well, Kronos then kills both vampires with his steel blade, rescuing Paul and Sarah. Kronos engrossed right off, leaving Carla alone in the village. Where will you go? She asks. Wherever there is evil, he says smugly.
We'll send you a bill. We'll send you a bill for the work.
So yeah, it's sort of like it was going to be a series or something, maybe. Well, Kronos spends half the film with his shirt off, and he has got to be the scrawniest leading man I've ever seen.
Well, I've seen worse, but yeah, he's not too buff.
He was obviously taking his shirt off for sex appeal, but
yeah, but
he must have left that at home or something.
Well, to be fair, I've seen worse, but yeah, he wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, this was not anything impressive. Apparently, Horst Jansen's German accent was so unintelligible that they had to dub all his lines. You gotta wonder how he even got the role. He didn't look good. He didn't sound good. His acting sure wasn't good.
Oh, I thought his acting was fine.
You didn't hear his voice.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you just... Why get this guy?
I don't know.
Maybe he was big there. He impressed the right people.
Big star in Germany. Probably bigger in Europe.
The mythology of vampires is completely different in this one. How you kill them has changed. What they take from you is different. And even their purpose has altered. At least Hammer was still trying new things. And desperately trying to make vampires interesting again.
They were trying.
There had been a lot of vampires in the early 70s. Like Jack Palance was a vampire. Louis Jordan was a vampire. They had come up with a lot of competing vampires. Mm-hmm. Just on TV even. Which we're going to be talking about eventually.
Yeah.
But vampires and Christopher Lee was done. Or very close to done at this point. He playing Dracula.
So they were looking for things to stay relevant.
Something new.
Please keep someone coming to see our movies. Please.
Well, this very much feels like a film made from a comic book. Although actually the opposite happened. The film inspired a comic book series afterwards.
2 comic book series, little mini-series.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And it was also intended as the first in a new film series, but did so poorly that Hammer chose not to continue. It does try a lot of new things with an old idea, but it wasn't good enough to make me want more.
And then we come to Moon of the Blood. I can't say it.
The Blood Beast.
Moon of the Blood Beast.
Yeah, and I was thinking...
2019, an indie-ish film.
Moon of the Blood, didn't I see that like in the 70s?
No, apparently not.
No, this is not that.
Well, sort of.
It kind of is.
Sort of, kind of.
So this came out in 2019, and we're just now seeing it. So it's not super new, but a year. Written and directed by Dustin Ferguson. Stars Donna Lee Heising, Vita Gaffari, and Julianne Prescott. Hour and 10 minutes. And there is a link in the show notes where you can find Moon of the Blood Beast. Now, this whole thing is done in sort of a retro style.
Grindhouse kind of style. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, even the cover of the DVD has like old video store stickers on it. So it's meant to look like a cheap old bargain basement movie. And yeah, that's the intent. Did you like it?
Overall, yes. Yes. I liked it more than disliked it, and I give it a thumbs up.
All right. Well,
And I think you weren't as keen on it as I was.
I thought it was doing fine until the ending. I didn't like the end.
No, I understand the ending. Yeah. It seemed abrupt. It was very abrupt.
Well, we start out with some off-color, like I said, this is antique-y looking, off-color film footage of Satanist pentagrams and devilish artwork. We quickly cut to a bright, happy, fun-looking beach location. We then cut to a hitchhiking girl who gets dropped off on an isolated-looking trail.
Doomed.
She takes photos of flowers while we get a point-of-view shot of something watching her. Something with blood-red vision. It comes out of hiding, and she gets a photo of it before it chases her down. It drags her off, and we hear bones crunching as the credits roll.
And props to the sound people.
Crunch, crunch,
Yeah,
crunch.
yeah.
Well, Frank the sheriff reads about the murder in the newspaper, and he whines that the reporters are going to mess up another investigation. A man brings a photo of the monster that killed her to the sheriff, and he explains that the beast is back. Well, Sheriff Frank tells the man to get lost. Meanwhile, a guy is out jogging, and we get a glimpse of the creature this time before he feeds. That night, a group of stoners in a tent are talking about the first attack. They laugh about the beast, not realizing that he's right outside their tent.
Shouldn't have laughed.
Well, they say the town is protected by a demon. Every 10 years during the cycle of the harvest moon, it goes roaming for sacrifices. The three run off in different directions, but somehow the blood beast chases down all of them.
Maybe there's more than one.
Yeah, could be. Well, a couple of girls run out of gas on the road and decide to walk the final 2 miles to town.
Bad move.
Well, they know that hitchhiker died right near here not long ago, but surely the killer has moved on, right? Well, the next day the sheriff hears about all the mayhem, and so does the man with the photo of the blood beast. They all know what's going on, so what are they going to do about it? The hunt is on. Da-da-da. All right, well, it's a low-budget film, but this one's pretty good. The photography is quite sharp, and it all looks fine. The audio was a little spotty in the indoor scenes. I noticed every time the sheriff's in his office, it sounds like they're talking in a closet.
Yeah, a little bit.
But
Yeah,
it's
a little bit
mostly
muffling,
shot
but
outdoors, so that's not a huge gripe.
The crunchies. I like the crunchies. The crunchy effects.
They make the most of the monster and makeup mask effect by showing it mostly in glimpses and quick shots, sometimes at night.
And I think it's effective that way.
And most of the time, we see things from his perspective anyway. Yeah, I mean, it's not a great creature, but it's good. It's
does
decent.
the job, yeah.
There are a lot... Now, here's where it gets weird.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, there are a lot of clips from Track of the Moon Beast, a low-budget pseudo-werewolf film from 1976 that wasn't very good, but seemed to have gotten a lot of play back in the day. And this is the one I was thinking of when I looked at the title of the film, because I really hadn't forgotten about it. There's some fairly extensive segments of the film included here as a woman watches the old film on TV. And of course, the two stories do have a lot of similarities. I recognized what they were doing right away, but Kevin, who wasn't familiar with the original, thought it was confusing.
I was a little confused, yeah.
Why are they showing us this other story? Yeah.
Well, and at one point, wasn't Donna Lee Heising's character watching it on television? But then it was no longer being shown on television. It was like part of the movie, and I don't know.
No, I think it was just
on
clips on television.
Just on television, that's all? Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought it was a little confusing because I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the point of it was. It pads out a short movie into a longer movie.
Yeah.
And it does have some... I assume that the Track of the Moon Beast may be like public domain or something. It's probably why they showed it so often back in the 70s.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I remember seeing it quite often on TV back then. Well, I put this one off for a long time because the trailers made it look simply awful. Go watch the trailer for this movie and see if you want to see it afterwards. Yeah, it's a bad trailer.
The movie is better than
the
trailer.
movie is much better than the trailer.
Yes.
It was much better than expected. Although the ending was extremely sudden.
Very abrupt.
Yeah, there were good gore shots, some nice crunching and munching,
Mm-hmm.
lots of creative kills, and everything was clear and easy to see. But the ending, though, was just so abruptly cut off. And so our next film,
You see what he did there.
our next film, is a remake of Fantasy Island, the big budget. Now, Fantasy Island back in the 70s started off with 2 or 3 movies. You remember that? Did
No,
you see the? I don't know if they
think I
were
did.
theatrical movies or they were TV movies, but they were
Ricardo Montalban.
he was not in the first one.
I didn't know that. No,
I might be hallucinating. I seem
only
to
saw the
remember
series.
the original movie had a black man in the role,
huh? Okay.
and I don't remember. I'm going to have to look that one up if it was even called Fantasy Island.
No, I didn't see that.
And then there was 1 or 2 of them later on with Ricardo Montalban, and then it went to series.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it didn't start out. You looking it up?
Yeah, but it'll take a while because there's a zillion, and most of the references now are the new thing.
Well, this was 2020, came out in the spring this year. Directed and written by Jeff Wadlow and Christopher Roach. Stars Michael Pena, Maggie Q, and Lucy Hale. Hour and 49 minutes. Did you like it?
Yes, I did.
I did too. I gotta say, I read some really awful reviews about it. And I can kind of see where they're coming from, but I did like it. I don't regret watching it.
I don't regret it at all. It was different than the original.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, definitely
it was
different.
definitely updated. But yeah.
Much bigger budget,
Oh
obviously.
yeah. No, I'm looking this up, and Fantasy Island was introduced in '77 and '78 with 2 movies, and it was Ricardo Montalban.
I wonder if it was something not officially related, just very, very similar. Maybe a knockoff of it.
Yeah, could have been.
I know there was a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, anyway, this one. A woman runs through the jungle at night, pursued by men with flashlights. She approaches the big house on the island and goes inside. The phone rings, and it's Mr. Rourke. Someone comes in and grabs her, carrying her out of Mr. Rourke's office, and credits roll.
So there's a dark element to this right away.
Yeah.
You're warned that something's not right here.
There's a plane. The plane.
The
Hey,
plane, the plane.
Hey, guys, the plane is here. No, nobody actually says that here. Smiles, everyone, commands Rourke. Various people get off the airplane, and it all looks just like the old TV series. Congratulations to each of you for winning the contest, says Julia, who works there. Anything and everything can happen here, she says. An evil-looking demon kind of guy, played by Michael Rooker, is hiding in the bushes watching it all.
Oh, he's not that demon-y. He's just beat up and dirty. And
At this point, I was under the impression that he was a creature.
oh no, not at all. No, he's just been on the. It was clear he had been in hiding for a while, and he was
right.
all grubby and hungry, and yeah.
Well, we know that later, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
At this point, I wasn't sure. So,
Oh,
okay.
no, I didn't think that right away.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Well, Julia shows one of the guests to her room, and on the way out, she gets a nosebleed.
Julia is the right hand. She's the tattoo of
Yes.
Mr. Rourke, basically.
They all settle in until evening
His
when
chief
Mr.
assistant.
Rourke finally makes an appearance. Patrick is a soldier. Melanie has a photo of her ex on the nightstand. JD and Brax are brothers. There are only 2 rules here. Only one fantasy to a guest, and you must play out the fantasy to the end.
No takebacks.
That sounds like a problem. Well, the fantasies begin. JD and Brax go to a huge house party where Brax has a vision of a man with burns all over his body. Gwen wants a do-over for her regrets. She was bullied a lot. She wants a do-over and get even. Patrick is a failure at getting enlisted. Something went wrong, and he wants to be a soldier in the worst way.
Like his dad was.
Did he say why he didn't just sign? Is there some medical condition? Because he looked healthy enough.
You know, I don't think I caught that. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, somehow or another he enlisted and failed, but I don't remember why. Melanie wants revenge on the school bully. And we quickly see that there is a lot of snake imagery all over the island. It's like the logo of the place is a snake, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Melanie finds her arch nemesis, Sloane, tied up in a glass room. Wow, what a realistic hologram, she thinks. She presses the buttons, and bad things happen to Sloane. Hey, this is hilarious. Yeah, it's torture. It set her on fire. Burn her, cut her. Yeah. Good hologram.
Because she doesn't think it's real. Yeah.
And Melanie
it's the cathartic,
quickly figures out that Sloane is real, which she didn't believe at first.
And how did Rourke manage that?
A little kidnapping never hurts.
Yeah.
Patrick gets dropped off in the jungle with a backpack full of military equipment, and he's quickly taken prisoner by other soldiers.
See, and I think it was around this point where I was starting to wonder if we had a Westworld situation going on, where it was, droids, like in the updated Westworld.
Yeah.
That was where I was going with it at this point. But
you could certainly go that route. Westworld could have been like Fantasy Island, where specific dreams come through.
Yeah, but no, it wasn't the case.
Well, then JD and Brax, they live together on the mainland, and it's really holding JD back, although he won't admit it. Gwen starts to believe that this island version of Alan, her former fiancé, is real. Brax and JD find a panic room and a well-stocked armory in their house.
Yeah, and their fantasy starts going south when drug lords show up, and it's like it's their house, and
it's not your house.
Yeah, it ends up being a war going on, and things get dark
quickly. Yes.
Yeah.
Patrick meets his long-lost father, who's supposed to be dead.
Well, he
died in Vietnam or Desert Storm or something?
So there's clearly impossible things happening here. Yeah, and his father is his age.
Yeah. Time travel.
Yeah.
Melanie watches the torture continue, and things start getting out of hand for all of the guests, and Damon seems to be in the middle of each of them.
Lurking around the edges, yeah.
Oh, Damon, not Demon.
Damon,
It was right the first time.
Yeah, his name was Damon, yeah.
An evil-looking Damon, not a demon.
Not Demon. Yeah, that's where you got that from.
Okay, Michael Rooker was never a demon. He's a guy named Damon.
Hiding in the bushes and watching. And
I need to reread my notes before we do this. All right, well, Damon seems to be in the middle of each of these fantasies. Damon turns out, spoilers, to be a PI sent to investigate the island. He takes Sloane and Melanie to the heart of the island, sounds like Lost, and he says it's all very evil.
And at that point, it was very reminiscent of the core of the island, and
they didn't try to move the island.
A magical force that's powering the whole thing, and
Meanwhile, Gwen finds out that all their pasts are intertwined, and then it gets complicated.
And it does. I was impressed with how complicated they were able to make that.
Yeah. Well, the start of the movie and the basic idea behind each of the fantasies comes right out of the old TV show. Once things start turning bad for the guests, it's a lot more brutal and graphic than anything Ricardo Montalban had to deal with. The fun of the original series was that there was no real explanation of how Rourke did anything. You always had to wonder, did he do research? Did he build these houses exactly the way they were?
Well, in the series, too,
they didn't have like the dead people coming back in the series.
Initially. Well, but later on, as the series went on and on, it got more and more supernatural.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
In the second TV series, starring Malcolm McDowell, it was all generically credited magic.
Yeah, he was demon.
Clearly, he'd snap his fingers and things would happen.
He was a renegade demon or something.
Yeah, there was a shape-shifting character, and there was a lot of magic going on.
Yeah.
And here, Rourke explains everything in a little too much detail at the end. And I think explaining it all ruins it because it could never be real. The fun of the original show was that with no explanation, the possibilities were endless. With this story, they'd be hard-pressed to make an interesting sequel, as we know too much about how everything works.
Yeah.
They explained everything, and we didn't need to know.
And it doesn't, it still goes on. The island doesn't end. Yeah,
there's more fantasies
The island
later.
doesn't end, and, somebody's still in charge, and there's a new tattoo. And, so, theoretically it could, but it wouldn't be that interesting, I don't think.
Not really.
Yeah.
Well, I've read plenty of really bad reviews for the film, but overall I did like it.
Yeah, me too, very much so.
Just as much a reimagining as any of the other rehashed 80s properties that keep getting remade. Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah, thumbs up.
All right, well, that is our show. Hey, we didn't mention books this time.
We have books.
Go to horrorguys.com/books and, hey, buy our books. We got The Horror Guys Guide to Shock Theater, The Horror Guy's Guide to Son of Shock, and The Horror Guy's Guide to Hammer Horror. And the Hammer Horror is finally out and done, and yeah, it's really good. So that's our show.
Yes, it is.
And next week, we're going to watch other things.
House of Seven Gables from 1941.
Which I never watched at all until we watched it for this, because I thought it was like one of those girly romance films.
No, maybe you're thinking of
Seven Brides and Seven Brothers or
yeah,
something
or Little
like
Women
that.
or something.
Yeah, exactly. Something like, no, it's a real horror film.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by The Lost Continent from 1968, which I know I've seen many times. The Resident from 2011. And Let Me In from 2010.
And that's the foreign version before Hammer.
No. This is the Hammer
I'm mixing
version.
it up. Yeah,
It's all in
yeah,
English.
the Let the Right One In was before that.
That was the
This is the American.
Swedish or Norwegian or something.
This was the American remake.
Yeah, we're watching the American version.
Hammer returns with.
Both The Resident and Let Me In and Lost Continent were hammers.
Wow, it's a Hammer kind of show.
Hammer kind of show.
Yeah.
I'll bet we mention the book next week.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it for this week.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.